Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the first inaugural episode of Crunch Time with Adam, Taylor, and Greg Maneikis. We're going to be breaking down the last 4 minutes, crunch time, of the Celtics' big comeback victory over the Minnesota Timberwolves. We're going to stay in regulation. We probably won't touch on OT. So, Adam, if you want to go ahead and pull up the last 4 minutes here. Thanks for everybody tuning in, and let's get into it.
So I'm going to say this is the first time we're doing it. It's going to get better. This is going to be a bit how we're going to disjointed. You know, there's going to be some things that don't work. Please let us know how you want to see us make this better in the comments section. That's what it's there for. Let's get into it. So we're starting with around about 4 minutes left on the clock. 4 minutes, 9 seconds to be precise.
Celtics down 9 at this point, and I remember feeling like the game was slipping away. You see their 6-0 run.
I remember thinking, watching this at this time, like Tatum had looked like he was heating up a little bit, but it didn't really feel like he was going to be the version of Tatum that he ended up being, right?
Yeah. You want to pause it right there real quick?
Yeah.
Because right before this, if you remember, the Celtics had that jump ball at half court, right? And Anthony Edwards fouls Tatum. He grabs him on the arm, and Tatum was pissed coming out of that timeout. So what I really like about this play is that aggression when Tatum comes off the pin down and he gets the ball at the elbow against Naz Reid, which is kind of the point of that play right there, to get Tatum in an advantageous spot at his spot against a subpar defender. He just attacks. He goes and he's going full speed, full steam ahead.
So I've rewound it purposely so we can look at what that pin down is and why they run it. So it's really easy. Like, look, you're in transition. They're picking you up full court. You're just playing against a little bit of pressure. Minnesota are running that pressure defense specifically to try and get Boston into an action later than what they'd like to. You have like Drew Holiday come off kind of like a Ricky cut, but this is what's happening here with the wide pin down. You've got Horford setting the pin down around the corner region. Tatum coming over, forcing a Naz Reid switch, which is then going to get Tatum the mismatch at one of his favorite spots, which is going to be around the elbow. From here, you can get Naz Reid up on his feet. That dig then that came off Kyle Anderson kind of adjusted Tatum's pickup point a little bit, but he can cover so much ground with the way that he can like extend his strides. It makes no difference, dude.
Yeah, another thing, to consider in this game is that the T-Wolves are playing without Gobert. So a lot of times with those wide pin downs, what you'll see teams do is kind of top block that, especially a team that has a great rim defender in Gobert and funnel everything back to him. But there, it's Naz Reid and Anthony Edwards, and all they can really do is kind of hope and pray that the Celtics don't make the play.
And the last play from Minnesota, it weren't really noticeable. It was just dribble penetration. Here you've got Drew just kicking it out. You see, that to me was really important right there. I don't know if you saw that. I need to sort my hotkeys out. There was that little pinning from Tatum, kind of like a hammer screen just here. But it isn't a hammer screen because he's not set, because Horford isn't sinking in or lifting. It's just a pinning. But it just takes away the defense from being able to rotate out. Naz Reid has to spin off that screen. Just gives Horford all the time in the world to hit that free. And it's just, the Celtics run a lot of those pin-ins, but it's really underrated at how they can be.
And that pin-in from Tatum, I know it's part of what they do if you just want to run it here, but it's a read from Tatum, right? He sees Naz Reid on the block there, and what he decides to do is just go set that screen. That wasn't a called play necessarily. That was just Tatum making the read. Just picking up, high pickup point. This is great D by JB. Maybe got away with the foul, but forces that turnover.
As you said, great D by JB. And then early pitch ahead into Brown, who's going to get downhill, takes it over to get into the middle of the floor because that's one of his hot spots. Around nail, manages to draw some contact.
And Anthony, they were targeting Anthony Towns. He had, I think that was his 5th foul at this point, and then they continue. No, that was his 4th foul because Tatum gets a foul on him later in the game. But there's this great defense by Brown here. He kind of pulls the chair a little bit on Edwards, gets him off balance, and then tips the ball away. Edwards losing his balance, dribbles off his foot. JB again, just pushing the pace. He's feeling it after those free throws. Takes a bad shot here. Created space though, if he's feeling it, you kind of.
I'm not one for those early threes with no separation and no ball rotation.
Nobody near the basket for
nobody near the basket.
Yeah,
we got just a normal pick and roll, nothing to do there. Switch Al Horford onto Edwards. Edwards feels he's got the mismatch, doesn't knock it down the shot. They get the offensive rebound, long shot, long rebound.
Huge play by Holiday right there.
Yeah,
great hands. He, Holiday struggled on offense all game, but he made some serious defensive plays in the fourth quarter in crunch time.
And I'm kind of okay with the struggles that we see from him on a game-to-game basis. Like some games he's just fire, he's on fire. Other games he struggles offensively, but he brings so much in the margins, right? Like the deflections, how quickly he gets into the ball, how quickly he gets back, the decision-making that he can show. Like, I'm completely fine when he has problems on the offensive end. And I know some people are like, no, you need to be good on offense. Well, we didn't really feel that way about Smart for most of his career. So, like, who are we to judge?
Poor Smart, man. Out with that finger for next.
I know. I saw something the other day where people were saying, like, oh, the Lakers should trade for Smart. I'm like, dude, that'd be worse than if the Sixers traded for Smart.
Yeah, I don't want to see Marcus Smart anywhere near the playoffs this year, honestly. No. I want for him to experience it. It's selfish of us to say, we don't want Marcus to have success, but he's not going to experience that success with the Grizzlies, so it's going to have to come via trade. And this was a huge challenge there by Joe. That was a great challenge. Ends up Celtics ball. We're down, 7 at this point?
Yeah, I think they've pulled back a little bit.
Yeah, we're down 7 at this point.
Here we go. Little sidelines out of bounds, no play around because it's in their own half. They're in like a 2-3 flat, go to just a rip screen offense. They run this a lot, right? This was something that Joe started running last season, and I was really critical. I was really critical of it, and they run it out of the half court as well, but they've gone to more slice. But what you'll see is when I say flat, the other 3 offensive players are all along the baseline. So what happens then is you go into a dive action as White comes down, you get Horford up, and now they were kind of threatening a stack action, and that just opened up the driving lanes. But it wasn't really a dive.
One more thing I want to point out, if you just run that back and pause it right here. Okay, so at this moment, because it's interesting, they go to the exact same action on the next play. They are in a stack. They're threatening the stack, as you said. They just don't actually set that second screen where White would come up and screen for Horford and then pop out. But right here, as you see, Horford's all the way down on the weak side baseline, and Towns is the worst defender on the court, right? So they want to make sure they're pre-switching to get Towns off of Horford here. So Kyle Anderson actually runs out and Towns stays low on Holiday. So if you just go ahead and hit play, and go ahead, keep it going. See, they've made the pre-switch, stop it there. So at this point here, Tatum decides to go because he sees that Kyle Anderson is going to stick with Horford, right? They're trying to avoid getting that switch. They want to keep Jaden McDaniels on Tatum. So I loved this read by Tatum here. And then White is just so intuitive as a screener at all points, right? He as you say, threatening that stack, he would come up and screen Kyle Anderson to get Horford coming to the basket, but he decides he's going to stay in the paint and just hold Alexander right there. So Tatum continues to have his lane to the basket. It's beautiful read by JT against one of the best defenders in the league. So here they go, the exact same action. Can you run that back real quick? So I want to point something out here because Tatum gets the switch on Towns. So I just pointed out where Horford started his screen, right? He sprinted up from the weak side baseline. Notice where Horford starts his screen on this play. It's the exact same setup, but rather than stand over by where it says DraftKings on the court, he's going to take Towns to the opposite side and then sprint up, which negates the pre-switch, and it allows Tatum to get that switch onto Towns. Flips the angle of the screen, and now it's just MVP versus a not MVP.
Oh, I mean, that's harsh. That's a nice bucket. That's a nice bucket. I do like how you...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying those little things, like where you start the screen, I
really change things.
Really change, and that's just Horford having a ridiculous basketball IQ.
I think I consistently praise Horford on a daily basis. Here we go again. Push the pace, pitch ahead. Not much really happens. Tatum fights to get open. And now it's just big boy, big bank take, little bank type of thing. Not a very good role.
One thing I really like about that, though, Adam, we talk about the early pitch aheads again. If you just want to run that back, Tatum throughout this time when I was rewatching, the more that I think about this, and I think about the interview that he did with Iguodala and Evan Turner,
Yeah.
They talked about him getting to his spots because he's unstoppable right there. Like that point of the court, you can't do anything with Jayson Tatum. But if he's ISOing at the top of the key and he's starting to get into his rhythm dribbles, it's a little bit easier to set your defense. There, you're at his mercy. He missed the shot, but he got to his spot. And that was...
Yeah, and sometimes, like, it's, for me, it's always process over results, right? If you stick to good process, results will come. Like, you're not going to make every shot you take. I just want to give props to Holiday on this play here. Look, just for how quickly he kind of rotates over, right? So you've got Edwards here. I have no idea who's in the corner. It's blurry. Shit, I ain't got my glasses on, but it's just how quickly Holiday rotated over there. He switched with Al. Al picked up Anderson. Holiday rotates over to the strong side wing. Just gets the contest, pressures the ball, and for me, shot contests aren't always getting into somebody's face. It's about impacting the shot, speeding up the release, taking away the, like, you know, messing with their depth perception. Maybe they don't get the lift on their jump that they usually do because they're rushing their mechanics. So when you're really speeding out to somebody and you're not just threatening to fly by them, but you're threatening to really be into the ball, have your hand up high, you're contesting without necessarily being there to begin the shot. Once you mess those mechanics up, it makes it really difficult to stay consistent. And that's why Holiday consistently has a great defensive field goal percentage, is just how quickly he can get out to a shooter.
Gets out to the shooter in the shooter space. Another thing here, like, talk about basketball IQ. Horford goes right there, and then Holiday's ready to make that. Right? Yeah. And that's just a read. You know, Horford decided they were doubling Edwards throughout crunch time and OT, and they know that once you see that first person go to the double, you have to be ready to scramble on the backside. Holiday does a great job angling off, forcing McDaniels into taking a contested three, which was not close. And look at this, 41 seconds left. Joe Mazzulla calls a timeout. Don't tell me that Joe Mazzulla doesn't call timeouts. He's calling a timeout here. It's a great play that he draws up, and I'm really excited to talk about this next play with you, Adam, because I think it's just genius the way what they drew up. And
this one,
yeah, there's one screen that I don't necessarily know what I would call the screen. But what you'll see if you just pause it real quick before they run it, the goal of this play is to get Jayson Tatum onto Karl-Anthony Towns, right? That's all they want to do. And so the action that you'll see between Tatum and Horford right now, I would love for you to kind of label this for me, Adam, because it's really kind of innovative the way that they get Towns onto Tatum, because the T-Wolves do not want Towns on Tatum.
Nobody wants Tatum on anybody. Let's see how they run it. I can't remember this one. Okay. So generally out of here, they'll run a slice, but usually they run it on the strong side, not the weak side. And Tatum's lined up like it's going to be a wedge.
Yeah, it's like a double wedge that they run.
Okay, so that's a wedge. So that's a wedge twirl.
I had it labeled as a twirl.
Wedge twirl. That was pretty.
It's a beautiful play, man. That twirl action that they run, it causes confusion there. And then Towns, once again, he's ISO'd on Tatum, being overly physical. Towns doesn't have a high IQ.
And what I will say is twirl actions last season were a staple. They were weak side twirl actions were one of Joe Mazzulla's go-to plays. We don't really see them now. So just for everybody watching, the twirl action is you have the first wedge screen off Tatum, Horford curls off, sets the second wedge screen, then Tatum goes to where he needs to go. Loso block in the corner. And now it's just, let me draw the foul because Towns can't defend for a lick.
And that's ISO with an entire side of the court to yourself.
Just give me my space, give me my room, and let me try and make Towns. And look, man, you draw the contact. You won the battle as far as I'm concerned. You got him off the ground. There's nothing he could do at that point. You just lean in. We don't need to watch the free throws because it's just...
Oh, no, but there's a big one because he misses the second one, right? So big play here by White. Offensive rebound.
Boom. There. Well, I mean, White been doing that all season.
But here's Tatum getting to his spot, right? Gets to that elbow, forces the double, makes the right play. Horford being Horford, doing everything right.
So just look at the mechanics of how he gets there, drops that shoulder. And I want to point out the footwork that Tatum's got really good at. And I feel like Porzingis did this a lot too. So come through there. So you see how, like, when he's doing it, watch his feet. He kind of, not only does he get where he needs to go, but he kind of shields his leg. He shields the ball with his legs here and then kind of takes away their See that one step as he dropped his shoulder. He kind of takes away the defender's space by putting his leg kind of in between his defender. Because when your foot's in between their legs, that's now your space by the rule book. So then when you drop your shoulder and move them, it's no longer a foul because you're commanding your own space. And that's why Tatum can get away with dropping that shoulder on those kind of pound dribble, pound steps before he comes into the pull-up. And he's got really, really good at that this year. Porzingis is great at it with post-up actions.
As is Brown, right? Brown's really doing that. He's leading with that right shoulder. A lot has been made about JB's inability to dribble left, but he's done a really good job controlling the ball with his left hand. And,
dude, he's finishing left this year.
Yeah, he looks great. But that play by Horford is just, he knows right away when that next pass is, always. There was one play a little bit earlier, I think it's before crunch time, where Jalen missed Tatum for an open three, and Horford, like Jalen comes up, passes to Horford on the right wing, and Horford, like, the ball's barely in his hands. It's almost a touch pass across the court to Tatum for an open three. Well, Adam, this was fun, man. I'm excited to start this little YouTube series with you, YouTube exclusive. Maybe we'll stream this on Twitter from time to time. But thanks everybody for watching, and go Celtics.